So I'm back, and it's time to do the, well, I guess the 8th part of the Mario series. For this, I guess under an hour, we will try to add in the, well, more enemy behaviors. Firstly, we're going to create the fact that enemy can actually interact with us and kill us, so this doesn't happen. So we already have a second capsule collider for this. All we need to do is just create some kind of an interaction script that will be run when we collide with this specific collider. I'm thinking, and we also need to be able to step on it and kill him. What happens if I change the scale? Hmm. So, what if we move the models higher? Come back face, you have to go as well. So I'm doing some slight changes here to our enemy. And what if we now... No, that was a silly idea. I know what I'm gonna do. So what I want to do is let's create an empty game object here. No, let's go back. You know what? Go away. This didn't happen. Okay, let's duplicate you. So I have an idea. What I'm going to do is I'll create an empty game object in here. This is going to be called the scale control. Let's just unpack him. And what I'll do is I'll put every single game object into here. And what happens if we scale this down? Like this, okay. So let's go back to 1. And let's just, that this is the ground. Well, no. So now we're on the ground. This is 0. So now every single model, I kind of want them to be above the low scaler, and then I'm just going to move the scaler down. No. I just need to scale differently, don't I? Well, I still want to have the scale controller in, because I know, or no, go back, forget about it. There should be a way to scale from bottom to top, for sure. Or I could just add in an animation. I'll think about it later. I'm trying to do something I've never done before, and it's taking too long. Anyway, I have a missing gomba, if that's what they're called. Go back into your position. So let's create a script on a player that will check for collision. No, on each enemy. That'll check collision for the player. So let's go into interactable and type here enemy collision. It's not very creative. Don't want you. Where are we? Enemy collision. So what our enemy collision will do is it will, well, first we need a on trigger enter. So that will check our trigger enter, and we'll check if it's a player. So if collision dot transform dot tag is equal to player, and then we kind of want to kill the player. It's as simple as that. And what we'll probably have to do is, yeah, let's do that for now. How do we kill the player? How does this work? Actually, we need to do two things. So let's check if, so our player can enlarge. Well, it can't enlarge now, but I think he can enlarge with the code. So let's just open this and make sure that our, where are we? Player index. We can see the player index first. That will make all sense in a minute. So we have this. Let's open up this script so we know what our killing looks like for now. So we just do this in our enemy collision, like so. Now let's just press play and see how that's going to work out. So I'm like, oh no, and there we go. We got killed basically, which is exactly what's meant to happen. But if our player what's it called? If our player actually ends up colliding with this guy here, and so we want to give him invulnerability for 3 seconds. So what I'm going to do is, well, for now we can actually leave it. Yeah, it's okay for now like this. Let's add in the stomping first. Stomping and upgrade. Yeah, it makes more sense to do the upgrade and stomp first. So this works, that's fine. What's the name of the video? Enemy interaction. So that's fine. Let's do stomping next and then do the little grassy thing. So we have the player block triggering. So we kind of just want to have another one of these. Let's just create a new script for it. So for interactions, we will have a player, because there's a lot of player interactions involved. So destroying block, player block. Nah, no, I'll just confuse myself. So this will be the stomping. Yeah, no, it has to be split because it's too messy. Player, environment. So what's attached to our player is going to go into the player one. So let's click on the player. We have player upgrade, player block triggering, player upgrade, stomping. What's block interaction? No, that's just environment. So is this. And now let's add both sets of orbs into the environment. Add a new one called enemy. There's going to be more than one enemy. All of these will go into environment, and the final one is going to go into the player. Yep, there we go. This makes more sense now. At least to me it does. So for stomping, we are going to essentially copy the script from, well, we're just going to do the reverse of our player block. Right, so what we kind of have to do is, the more I look at this code, the more it makes sense just to have it in this one, because we don't have to recall everything. But you know what, let's just do it separately. So I'm going to do for now is I'm going to exactly copy the entire thing. And now that we've copied this, because that would prevent us from doing the raycasting twice. Now our player has a transform. So let's get that transform, private transform, and that's going to be floorcasts. And what we're going to do is, instead of casting from transform, we're going to do from our floorcast instead. The rate, distance, all of it can stay the same. This is technically enemy mask. not ground mask. So we're just going to change the name, not a matters. And then if hit, well, actually our collider and at this point will always be an enemy. So debug.log hit on enemy, right? If we stomp on top of it. Now let's go into the player and just add the stomping. We'll go back, stomping in. Now we're looking at enemy, and for our floor cast, it's going to be the ground check. So now we have a raycast that's constantly raycasting down. Let's remove some of these blocks, and we actually hit the enemy. So at the point, so what I kind of have to do is we have to make sure we hit the enemy before we before we actually collide with his collider. So I'm just gonna grab this guy and check his colliders, and I'm gonna decrease this collider here like this, and I'm gonna add a box collider on top of him, like this. Oh, box collider 2D. And I'm just going to move this box collider up above the thing. So this is essentially the collider that we will use to stand on. And then all the other colliders, well, actually, let's change it even a little bit more. This collider will be removed entirely, and I'm just going to add another box collider to G. Wait, no, that one's okay. This one's going to be set to trigger. And this box collider is going to be between here and here. So essentially what happens is, if we stand on top of his head, then that's fine, because that's how we want it to happen. But if we miss the head, then obviously it's wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'll just press play on the... I'm just going to pause his movement real quick. No, where is it? Enemy controller. So now he's stopped. Okay, so now we can stand on top of his head. And if we actually land on that, we get that raycast hit. But if we go in like this, it resets us instead. So what this actually has to do is just do hit.transform. Hit.transform. That's active, and we're just going to set it to false. We also want to add some points to the player, to the enemy, which we will store somewhere in the, I guess, enemy collision script. It just makes sense, even though kind of. So what we're going to add here is private int points, and that's how much points we're going to earn per stomp on our enemy. So let's add in a, well, let's check out how the coin does it real quick. So let's just copy this into here. Also, something that bothers me already. And we just need to do this. So we'll do a public void smash enemy. So a smash enemy will do this, and will also disable the object. So this dot transform this dot set the game object dot set active false, and in the middle between these later on we'll add another segment which will be just I guess the killing, like the squashing of the enemy. For now we don't need to squish him. It's all right. So triggered when we squash, when we land on top of the enemy. I'm kind of thinking that if we do that, we should also proc a jump that's not a voluntary jump. Like kind of force the player to jump with the stomp. So now this will change to get component, and we will be looking for the enemy collision. So now our enemy collision handles all kinds of collisions, and we'll do smash enemy like this. And what we'll also do is get a reference to our jumping. Actually, we'll do controller dot move, and we will now I kind of feel like I should put it in the player movement script. So let's just put 0 false, and in here we are going to put true like this, and let's see what's going to happen. I'm just curious at this point. So I want to kind of delete as many of these as I can. Okay, so we don't get the instant second jump, which is sad. Yeah, it just kind of smashes them and we don't jump off them, which is a problem. Okay, so that will need to be changed later. I'm happy with this for now, to be honest. It does kill us or kill them, and that's fine enough. Animations and the effects will be added later. So now let's look at the cylinders. So each of these cylinders will have to have two things. Some of them will have the warp hole, the others will not, and they will all need to have the little whatever you call that goes up and down. So let's actually tidy up this slightly. So that's backgrounds, that's fine. Floor collision, that's fine. Bounds. Let's add two new ones. In here, on upside. So first one's going to be our collectibles, and that's where we're going to add the coins. Actually, that could be in interactable blocks. Where are all the other? Oh, because I deleted all of them. Yeah, so that can be moved in here. And actually, we're going to create a new game object, and we'll just store the enemies here. Like so. We're actually going to put the warping holes inside of here as well in a minute. Okay, now with this, the start position doesn't have to be in here. That could be part of the map. Okay, better. What do we have now? Why is there? Oh, because mushrooms inside. Okay, now let's create something that will look like the little, I guess cactuses, the edible plants things. So how can I do it? Let's Google what they look like. Mario. Oh, okay, so that's what it looks like. Unity doesn't have such objects to represent that. Hello? Did Unity crash? Okay, so let's create a cylinder. So that's going to be the stem of the flower. And at full release, this is we're going to pose it so it's what it would look like at its full release. Should be about this big. Okay, I've got enough references in my head. Actually, let's create an empty game object, and I'm just going to call this the man-eater plant. Just going to add this in here, and that's going to be called the base. As for materials, we will. Oh, we actually have the flower green. which is great. Oh, because we already have a different flower. Let's duplicate this and create even a darker flower green. This flower green is going to be used for the plant base. There we go, like this. And then we need the head of the flower. Wait, let's open that window again. What color did it have? It had red and... Okay, I can't have red because the character is red. Let's make it blue. Yeah, blue should be fine. Okay, let's... And for that, we are going to use... What kind of a game object would fit? I guess I'm just gonna have to do 2 sets of... What if I go something like this? So here we have a cube, and let's add a sphere next to it. Now, move that sphere out, and it looks awful. Okay, 50%. Like this. By the way, none of these need any collision. So I'm just going to remove, especially no 3D collision. Yeah, just going to leave it as that. And I'm going to get the flag blue. Actually, we're going to use... Oh. Plan head. Let's add some textures. So let's open paint. Perfect. So we will have a blue for the base like this, and you're gonna have orange dots all around. Like this. Two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Just gonna add maybe a little bit more to the side here. One in here. There we go. I'm happy with this. Now let's save this as, and it's gonna be our man-eater texture like so. Okay, let's go into our images, textures, drag in our man-eater. Now go into our material. Where are we? Plan head. And we are going to remove that. Actually, we don't need that anymore. You just drag in our man-eater instead. Okay, that looks like something dangerous, right? Okay, now let's reverse this by doing a 180 spin. Maybe a little bit closer on both of them. I mean, not gonna lie, I like it. I think it's quite good. And then we're gonna have little teeth, I guess. So, let's move them inside, on top, inside the base. And now let's create something that could look like a teeth. Well, technically, if you think about it, a cube is a reverse teeth. So let's attach a white color to it and just do a 45 degrees, not on this axis, 45, not on this axis, 45, there we go, like this. So let's full screen actually, so I can see better. So I'm just gonna have a few of these, like so. It's so much easier to move and they're not flipped. 55, there we go, perfect. And what I kind of want to do, oh, they're already looking. Okay, so these guys, move them slightly to the back. I'm actually just gonna scale them like this. Now for the teeth, let's just rename them teeth and move them into the base as well. Now with the teeth inside the base as well, we're gonna move them inside like this. Actually gonna be behind. So if we just look this in 2D, there we go. perfect. Kind of. They're sticking out a little bit, which means they need to go to the back a little bit more. There we go. And it looks really good in my opinion. In fact, wow. So what's gonna happen is, if we find the scene again, oh, stop clicking on animation. It might be a little bit big. I might need to make it slightly bigger. So what I'm gonna do now is, I'm just gonna grab the base. Everything should be inside the base, and I'm just gonna enlarge it to however big we want it to be. In fact, the base itself just needs to be slightly smaller. So I'm just gonna detach everything, make the base a little bit smaller, and now I'm gonna attach everything back into the base. And now we can enlarge it. There we go. So what's gonna happen is this guy will move like this. Jump, jump, jump. And then it'll go back down. And it'll go up, and it'll go down. And it'll go up, and it'll go down. And we actually have a script that does just that from our blocks. So if we go into our block, where are we? Into destroy block, we have a coroutine that gets triggered and keeps moving up and down constantly. And yeah, which is kind of exactly what we need for it to be. The only thing that I'll change here is, so right now it's set to a flat 0.5. We will actually modify it so it's a value of our choice. So let's set up a box collider for it. That's going to be a box collider 2D. Now let's make sure the box collider is as big as we would like the box collider to be, which is, where are we? I lost it. I still want the character to have a little bit of space to just about edge it, maybe. So about this size, like this. That's good enough. We're going to set this to trigger so we can go through the collision. We will add the destroying, so destroy block into this script. So with this alone, and so this is at 0. Now let's make sure it's inside of our cylinder tower, which is, I believe, this tower. It's not. It's the other tower. Okay, is it? It is. Where's the first one? Warp collider. There we go. It's at there it is. Okay. So that's our fully out and our fully in CS. So we'll definitely have to change how that works. So let's press play and go into our, oh yeah. So what we actually need to do is create another script that will work alongside of it. Did we create a script for it? We didn't actually, which is great. So that's fine. So let's create a new interaction environment script. Actually, let's put this into enemies, and that's going to be called the man-eater controller. Now this controller is completely different from our normal controllers, so it's going to be a new script on its own. And this will be added to our warp collider. So each of our warpers will have a script collider, but then the actual base itself will have its own script. Where are we? Yeah, which will let us warp instead. So let's open our new script. And here we want to get rid of this. So what we want is we want to get a reference to that script. So private destroy block to destroy. And what we want to change in the block to destroy is we just want to add a serialized field, and it's going to be private void float. and that's going to be our the adjustment amount, and you're going to set it to 0.5f, and we're going to add a range here. So the minimum we want is 0.5, and you're just going to set it as 2 for now as max. And the reason why I know 0.5 is going to be our minimum is because that's how much we have for our default blocks. So there you go. Let's change this to this. And with this, I don't actually have to go into the other blocks and manually change it, because now the adjustment will be that. Or so I hope. Let's click on any block. There we go, yeah. So by default, they have the minimum, which is the correct value. And what we'll have to do is we'll have to actually indefinitely loop this. So when this finishes, we will have to signify our man-eating controller, be like, hey, the coroutine finished, you need to start a new coroutine. Which we is already done with our is active. So we set it to true here, and then is active sets to false in here. I hope it's not used for anything else. I think I created it for this, so it checks if we can trigger the block again. No, we can't use that one. What did I just do? Okay, so what this will do is actually what we can just do is keep triggering this coroutine over and over every now and then, and that will give our players some time to rest. So let's go here and just create a invoking function. So in start, we will just do invoke repeating, and there's going to be a private void, and that's going to be called the run man eating, like so. And we can do this. Well, actually, let's spice this up a little bit. So we'll do a private float random start, and then random start will be equal to random.range 0, and let's just do 1f. So we'll basically get a random start time at the start, and then we will just do it every 2 seconds, and we'll test it out if 2 seconds is good enough. And what this will do is it will do block to destroy dot no, we definitely do have to set is active to true, so it can be reset. I hope it's not going to ruin any of our other behaviors. And we're looking to start a trigger block like this. Of course, for destructible, we're going to set false because it's not something we want to be able to get rid of. Now, there we go. We have our man-eater, and adjustment amount is going to be, let's set it to a second and see how it's going to look like. Press play and see what's going to happen now. Okay. So let's move it down. Another value that we'll have to control with this is the speed of the destroying of the block. Right now, the what's called the wait time is too big. So rather than having wait time here, we're just going to remove it entirely from here, and we'll just slap it here like this. Same way we did it with that. There we go, like this. Of course, the minimum should be what it was here, but the maximum should be bigger. And let's see how that's gonna adjust it. Still really quickly, way too quickly. Let's try to slow down this process as much as we can. Oh, I didn't actually change it. Let's see. Hello. Okay, I need one of these right next to the character. There we go. Oh, so it doesn't move. There we go. So it's doing exactly what we want it to. The adjustment amount is too small. So let's change it to 1.5. It's actually really good. The other blocks seem to move as they should. No problems. Wow, it's great. Yeah, so we saved some. I'm so scared waiting in between these. So once we go back, maybe 2 seconds is not enough. Let's change it to 3. So this is something that has to be fine-tuned. There is no way to get it right otherwise. I think wait time we can increase as well to 1.5, and that actually adds to a entire 3 seconds, which means the entire cycle is how many times we've run it, which is not enough. So let's change it to 5 seconds. So again, the initial one goes out really quickly. And then there is about 2-second delay. So we're fine. And then, yeah. So now let's add in the next part, which is going to be, so I believe our enemy has it already, which is going to be our enemy collision. So if we go into our man eater and add enemy collision, we do want to put it on the enemy layer. No, not this. Yes. Or do we not? Actually, I don't think we need to put it on an enemy layer. We can put it because we don't want to stomp on it. That's the most important part. We don't want the player to have an option to be stomped by it. The cylinder itself is already preset as it should be, which is fine. So let's just leave it at 0 for now. Just do more testing, see how it goes. I also do want to add the exact same script that is attached to, well, the activator. Or do we not want the activator? Let's leave. No, let's leave the activator. Let's make them constantly perform their. I feel like I'm slightly off-centered. Okay, better. But let's see it one more time. And if I'm happy with it, we're good. I don't know if I want to, like, do we want to be able to edge? because we do slip. Oh, great, we lost. Yeah, let's make the plant smaller. So we can actually stand on the edge of the cylinder, or we can just make the cylinder bigger, which is also an option. But I like the shape of the cylinder, which means the plant is going to get smaller. We only want to like trim it on this axis. Yep, 0 this. Now let's give this a try. Can I just edge slightly? No. It's because we have a round collider at the bottom. But then the round collider gives us a really smooth movement. Sure, you know what? You're gonna get slightly increased in size, just so I can have the edging. Okay, like this. Okay, so you can now stand. It's very hard. Small. I could have just added a second collider to our player. Maybe that's actually a thing we can add later, just so we don't slip off some surfaces. I don't know. One more thing that we need to add is the warping system. So now that we have a cylinder, two sets of cylinders, so let's put this where it was meant to be. Go into our prefabs. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rename this to, this one can go away. We don't need this anymore. So this is warp cylinder. I'm going to duplicate it and I'm going to call it just no warp. And the difference between these two is that this one's just not going to have the script. That's it. This one's just going to be a basic cylinder that doesn't warp. The other one will. And let's drag them both in here. That one can go away. And once I put this one in its place, about here, this one can go away, and then this one can go here. And with this, we have our cylinders done, which is great. Let's go into map, put our cylinders into enemies, put the map into interactive. There we go. And it's a nicer looking everything. Now you can go here. Game level manager. Player can be at the very bottom. There we go. Canvases are together. Let me think. Is there anything else that we might possibly be missing? Oh yeah, the actual warp mechanic itself. Warp cylinder base. Top. So we do have our player collision on stomping. So what we'll essentially do is, I think we should expand the script. So if we go into our player movement, just to showcase what we have, so we can get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. So this is how we check for it, jump. And this is exactly what we're going to do, but we're just going to check for crouching. Now I'm going to go into build settings, player settings, and input, and see what we have to work with. We have vertical. So we will use vertical as our axis. So we're going to do this. Well, can I do it like that? No, input out. So what I'm kind of going to do is, where are we? Do something like this. Vertical input. change this to vertical. And our stomping, I'm going to extract, change this to vertical input. And what we'll do is essentially do if vertical input is equal to, actually, let's just do is higher than, it's equal to 1, or vertical input is equal to -1, then we can check for a different type of collision. Let me think. Do this. So we're just going to reuse this raycast. So we'll just do hit dot call. So if hit dot collider dot transform dot tag is equal to, and let's see if we named that specific cylinder top to something. No, we didn't, but we do have a warp tag. So if it's a warp, then we can call in the warp function. And I believe the warp hull has to do the exact same thing as the warp script. So let's open up both of them. No, the only thing that they would share is the name. So we'll just do a public. Actually, I can just duplicate no, because that one has on trigger enter, the other one doesn't. But that's fine. They don't need both. There is no need for that. Where are we? Because this will never call on trigger enter, because neither of them are triggers. So let's remove a warp hole and just add a basic warp, and add a new function to the warp called public void warp. And what we'll actually put in here is just this. Later we can again add some kind of an animation. Warp player. But for now, there's no need. Where are we? So hit the get component, the transform the get component, warp component, warp, like this. Perfect. So now we can warp as we wanted. I need to update the warping script, because we no longer have a warp hull. There we go. And now we have our second enemy. I guess in the next part we're gonna add the next enemy. I'm gonna do, yeah, I think, yeah, we'll add the third enemy, and that'll be all the enemies apart from the boss fight that we'll add. And then we can start working on the underworld levels on top of our current levels, and then at the very end we'll just add the score calculation. Score calculation will only trigger once we collect everything. Anyway, let's play through this, give it a try, and then that'll be it. I'll be having a little break. Oh yeah, the mushrooms. Ooh, the mushrooms need slight fix. Ah, go, 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 go. Dun, dun. There you go. Why do we pause? Why do we pause at the end? That was so weird. Where's the flag? Interactable flag. Wait. Let's just add a debug.log for now. Player has came into contact. Like this. Boom. Go. Aye. She lost the health. Go, 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 go. Interesting. What is this top? Are we crashing the game in some way? Come, jump down. Interesting. So I'll need to Google what's happening here. I mean, not Google, debug. I mean, I understand we don't have that level. Okay. Anyway, this is it for now. Next time we'll be adding the third enemy, and when I get a chance, I'll look at these issues in the off-screen. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back today later on.